My husband took me to a party but left me with a man who said he knew my soul. Disclaimer. This content is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised. It was supposed to be a normal night out. Just one of those fancy weekend parties my husband liked to attend to keep up appearances. You know the kind: dim lights, expensive laughter. People dressed to impress but hiding something behind every smile. I had worn the navy dress he chose for me, the one he said made me look polished. Not pretty, just polished, like I was something to show off. I didn't argue. I was used to being the silent plus one. As we stepped into the grand hall, filled with strangers and shallow conversations, I held onto his arm like I always did. But this time, something felt off. He seemed distant, like his mind was already elsewhere. Then, without much warning, he leaned in, whispered something about meeting an old client, and left me near the bar. I waited. First 5 minutes. Then 10. I started scanning the room. Still no sign of him. That's when I heard a voice behind me, low, calm, but oddly familiar. "You don't remember me, do you?" I turned startled, and there he was. A man I didn't recognize, or at least I thought I didn't. He wasn't just any guest. He looked at me like he knew me. Not just my name or my face, but something deeper. Something unsettling. "We've met before," he said softly. "Not in this life, though." I laughed nervously, brushing it off, thinking maybe he had the wrong person or had too much to drink. But then he said something only I knew, something from my childhood I had never told anyone, not even my husband. How did he know that? Who was this man? And why did my husband leave me with him? I felt a strange pull, half fear, half familiarity. Like I was walking into a memory I didn't remember making. Everything in me wanted to run. And yet I stayed. My hands trembled around the glass I was holding. Was this a coincidence? Or had something much deeper been set in motion without my knowing? What would you do if a stranger claimed to know your soul better than your own partner did? Have you ever felt like someone you've never met knew you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Vote in the poll. Was it fate or betrayal? And don't forget to subscribe, because what happens next will change everything she thought she knew about love, loyalty, and herself. I stared at him, my throat dry, heart thudding in my ears. The music around us pulsed and people kept laughing, drinking, and dancing like nothing strange was happening. But inside, I felt like I was slipping into something I couldn't explain. He just stood there, calm and still, like he had all the time in the world. Like he was waiting for me to remember something I'd never known I forgot. I cleared my throat and asked, "Do we know each other?" He smiled, not a creepy smile, not forced. It was sad. Almost warm. "Not yet. But your soul remembers mine. It always has." His voice was deep, and I don't know why, but it felt like he was telling the truth. Something in me stirred, something quiet and buried. It didn't make sense, but it didn't feel like a lie either. I looked around, trying to find my husband, to shake off this strange feeling, but he was nowhere. No texts. No calls. He just disappeared into the crowd and left me with this man who was now telling me about my own past like he'd lived it with me. He leaned closer and said, "Do you remember the river with the broken bridge? The one you dreamed about every summer when you were 12? I froze. My fingers tightened around my glass. I never told anyone about that dream. Not even my mother. It was mine, private, a memory that didn't belong in this room, or with him. How do you know that?" I whispered. He looked at me with a gentleness I wasn't used to. "Because I was there. We made a promise under that bridge. A long time ago." The air around us felt heavier. I backed away a little, my mind spinning. It was insane. This whole moment was impossible. And yet my chest ached with a weird kind of recognition. Not of him exactly, but of something I couldn't name. Something old. He didn't chase me. He just stood there watching. Almost like he knew I'd come back when I was ready. But I wasn't. Not yet. I turned away, pushed through the crowd, desperate to find my husband. And when I finally spotted him across the room, laughing with a woman I didn't recognize, my stomach dropped. He looked relaxed. Comfortable. Like I was the last thing on his mind. Why did he bring me here? Who was that man? And why did part of me feel like the night was just beginning? What do you think is happening? Is this man telling the truth? Or is something more dangerous at play? Comment below and let me know your theory. I stood there, frozen, watching my husband from across the room as he leaned in too close to the woman beside him. She laughed at something he said, her hand brushing his shoulder like they'd known each other for years. A twist of something sharp curled in my chest. Confusion, betrayal, maybe both. But instead of confronting him, I turned back toward the man who claimed to know my soul. And he was gone. Panic rose in my throat. I scanned the crowd, the dance floor, the bar, nothing. He'd vanished as suddenly as he'd appeared, like a ghost. But his words echoed in my head. We made a promise under that bridge. I didn't even know if it was real. Was he playing with my mind? Or worse, was he telling the truth? I walked outside to get air. My head was spinning. The party lights bled into the night like fog. That's when a different thought crept in. What if my husband knew him? What if this wasn't random at all? 'Cause something didn't sit right. Why would my husband leave me alone in a room full of strangers when he knew I hated events like this? Why didn't he answer my texts? Why did he look so at ease while I was falling apart? And there was more. Lately, things at home had shifted in quiet, unsettling ways. He'd been more distracted, less affectionate. His sleep was restless. He started taking calls in the garage. I thought it was stress, work maybe. But now I wasn't sure. What if this man wasn't the only secret in the room tonight? Back inside, I bumped into a woman who'd been watching me. She smiled politely but held eye contact just a second too long. "You're not from around here, are you?" she asked. I said nothing, unsure if she was being friendly or fishing for something. "That man who spoke to you earlier," she added, lowering her voice. "He doesn't usually talk to anyone. He just watches." I felt my stomach twist again. "Do you know him?" I asked. She hesitated, then simply said, "Be careful who you trust tonight. Not everything is what it looks like." What did she mean by that? Was this more than just a coincidence? Was everyone playing some kind of part in something I didn't understand? If you were in her place, would you confront the husband now, or follow the stranger's trail? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And tell me, do you believe in past lives? Or do you think this is all just a twisted game? Your theories might just uncover the truth. I walked back into the party, but everything felt different now, like I was no longer just a guest. I was a piece in something bigger, something carefully placed. The music felt louder, the smiles faker, and the air heavier. My eyes kept scanning the room, half hoping I'd spot that strange man again. I didn't know if I wanted answers or just wanted to feel something make sense. I found my husband near the back of the hall, still with that woman. Her laugh was soft and constant, and the way he looked at her, it wasn't just friendly. I stood behind a pillar watching. For a second I thought he saw me. But if he did, he didn't care. He leaned in and said something in her ear, and she touched his arm like it was hers to touch. I felt something break inside. My instinct screamed at me to go confront him, demand the truth, drag everything into the light. But then a soft voice behind me stopped me cold. "You're not supposed to wake up yet." I turned fast. It was him again, the man who knew my soul. He was closer this time, more serious. His eyes weren't just watching me, they were searching through me. "What are you talking about?" I asked. "Why are you here? What do you know about my husband?" He looked at me like he pitied me. "He didn't bring you here to reconnect with anyone," he said quietly. "He brought you here to let go." Let go? Of what? Me? My life? My sanity? I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't move. Something in his tone, calm, certain, paralyzed me. "You've been having dreams," he continued. "Memories that don't belong in this life. You've been trying to ignore them, but your soul is waking up." I felt like I couldn't breathe. My heart pounded so loudly it drowned out the music. I tried to ask him who he really was, but he simply reached into his coat and handed me a small, folded photograph. My fingers shook as I took it. It was an old black and white picture, worn at the edges, of two children standing by a broken bridge. One of them looked exactly like me. The other was him. Everything spun. The room, the people, my sense of what was real. I looked up, but he was gone again. And then I saw my husband staring straight at me from across the room. His face had gone pale. He had seen the photo in my hands. What was he hiding? And why did I suddenly feel like I was never meant to know? If you were her, would you confront him now? Or would you follow the truth no matter where it leads? Comment below and share your predictions, because everything is about to unravel. My hands tightened around the old photo. crumpling its edges as I turned away from my husband's gaze. Something in his expression had shifted. Not surprise, not guilt, something closer to fear. He started walking toward me. Fast, like he suddenly needed to stop me from doing something. But I didn't wait. I moved through the crowd, clutching the photo like it was the only thing grounding me to reality. I slipped into the hallway that led to the back of the estate, the noise of the party fading behind me. My breath was shaky, heart pounding. Everything was happening too fast, too strange. And yet deep down, part of me wasn't shocked. It was as if I had always known there was more. More to him. More to me. More to everything I'd been pretending was normal. That's when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned, half expecting the man again. But it was her. The woman who had been laughing with my husband. Her smile was gone. Her face was cold, serious. "You weren't supposed to see that," she said softly, glancing down at the photo in my hand. "You've complicated things." "What things?" I asked, backing away. "Who are you?" She looked at me, and for a moment I couldn't tell if she was angry or sad. "I've known your husband longer than you think," she said. "Long before this marriage. Before this life even." My head spun. "You're part of this?" She stepped closer, her voice low but steady. "This isn't about cheating or lies. It's about memory. Soul contracts. Promises made long before you could speak." I almost laughed from the tension. It sounded insane, but nothing about tonight had made sense. "You expect me to believe you're what? Some kind of guide?" She didn't flinch. "I was meant to remind you." But he tried to delay it. He thought if he kept you distracted, he could keep the cycle from breaking. "What cycle?" I asked, my voice cracking. She looked me dead in the eyes. "You were never his to keep." Just then my husband appeared at the end of the hall, face pale, eyes desperate. "Don't listen to her," he said, stepping forward. "She doesn't understand what's at risk." I stood frozen between them. Two people, two stories, two completely different versions of my life. Who was lying? Who was trying to protect me? And what was it that everyone thought I wasn't ready to remember? If you were her, who would you trust in this moment? Drop your answers in the comments and tell me, do you think the soul can carry secrets even the mind can't explain? Because the next choice she makes will change everything. I stood frozen, caught between two people who both claimed to know the truth. One I had promised my life to, and the other who had somehow unraveled everything I believed in within a single night. My husband stepped closer, eyes locked on mine, voice low and pleading. "I was trying to protect you. You started remembering things, and I knew it was only a matter of time. I thought if I could just keep you distracted, we'd have more time before it all came back." "Before what came back?" I asked, barely above a whisper. He looked down, defeated. "Before you remembered who you really are, and who we used to be." The woman stepped in, her voice calm but certain. "He didn't lie because he hated you. He lied because he feared losing you again. You've both done this before in another time, but it always ends the same way, one of you remembering too late." I felt a strange calm wash over me, like something inside finally aligned. The dreams, the feelings, the strange connection with a man I'd never met. Maybe this wasn't about infidelity or betrayal. Maybe it was about unfinished stories that souls carry across lifetimes. Maybe this was the moment I was always meant to reach, not to accuse or run, but to understand. I looked at my husband and saw him not as a deceiver, but as someone terrified of repeating a past neither of us fully remembered. And I looked at the woman and saw her not as a threat, but as someone sent to wake me up when I was ready. "I remember the river," I said softly. "The promise. The voice in the dark. I remember choosing to forget, because it hurt too much." Tears filled his eyes. "And now?" I took a deep breath. "Now I think it's time we stop running from who we were, and start being honest about who we are." We didn't need to talk after that. There was nothing left to hide. Not everything was fully clear, and maybe it never would be. But the truth wasn't just in facts or timelines. It was in the way my soul had responded. It was in the moment I realized some connections are bigger than memory. Some stories take more than one lifetime to tell. If you've ever felt a pull toward someone you couldn't explain, or lived through a moment that felt like déjà vu but deeper, share your thoughts in the comments. Would you forgive someone who kept your past from you out of love? And should this story continue in another chapter? Let me know if you'd like a sequel because maybe the story isn't over yet. The air between us settled into a strange stillness, like everything unspoken had finally floated to the surface. My husband didn't try to explain any further. Maybe he knew words wouldn't fix it. Maybe he realized that truth, once uncovered, doesn't need to be defended. He just stood there, eyes on me, waiting. I looked at the photo in my hands one last time. The children by the broken bridge. Me and the man who said he knew my soul. That image had pulled something from deep inside, something beyond logic or memory. It wasn't just about the past, it was about a pattern repeating. A cycle. One that I had the power to break. I turned to the woman, the so-called guide, and asked the only question left in my heart. What happens now? She smiled, not with pity, not with pride. Just peace. You remember who you are. That's all you ever needed to do. The rest? That's your choice. And for the first time all night I understood. This wasn't a test. It wasn't about betrayal or punishment. It was about awakening. About the parts of ourselves we buried to fit into the lives we're told to live. And the moments like this one where we're given the chance to choose differently. I didn't leave my husband that night. Not out of guilt or fear, but because something told me the story wasn't done yet. We drove home in silence, both of us carrying too many unspoken truths. But silence, I learned, isn't always emptiness. Sometimes it's a space being cleared for something new. In the weeks that followed, the dreams came more vividly. Not nightmares, but fragments. Faces, places, promises made beneath moonlight. I wrote them down, piecing together a version of myself I had long forgotten. And with every memory, something inside me softened. I stopped needing all the answers. I started listening to my own voice. My husband and I really talked for the first time in years. We didn't fix everything overnight, but we began again with honesty. And that strange man, the one who started it all? I never saw him again. But sometimes when I walk by water or hear certain music, I feel like he's still nearby. Watching. Waiting. Not as a stranger but as a reminder. Because sometimes the people we meet are echoes of something older. Sometimes love isn't new. It's just waiting to be remembered. If this story touched something in you, share what part stayed with you the most. Do you believe in second chances across lifetimes? Would you like to see where this journey goes next? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that speak to the soul.